Services District Board of Supervisors to order, and let's have the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I should go back and indicate that all board members were present at one time. Doug will not be here, and he's not calling in.
He'll be online in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
I'll let you know when he joins.
We'll do the proper motion to get him on, and Flavia, we have no idea where she is
She's somewhere
at.
in the building.
Do we want to go on ahead? Approval of the final agenda?
Yes, I will approve the final agenda.
Have there been any additions by staff? Nothing? Motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The agenda is approved. Public comment, do we have?
We do. I have 2 people who signed up to speak. First is Margaret Feinberg from Stony Brook about the 004 budget, 004 landscape contract, and the Hurricane Ian insurance claim. Just a reminder, you have 3 minutes.
That's a lot to go in 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
I'll have to talk fast. The first one I'd like to hit on a little bit is the,
Please be sure you announce yourself.
sorry,
I didn't start your
Margaret
time yet.
Feinberg for Stony Brook at Gateway. Actually for myself, not representing it, Stony Brook itself. I looked at there were some reductions in the staffing plan allocation percentage, but I'd just like to remind everyone that Stony Brook pays into the salaries in the 001 fund. And if you calculate how much we're paying by number of houses into the salaries, it's 19%. So when you ask us to pay over and above 5% for salaries, that's in addition to the 19% that we're already paying into the 001 fund. So I'd really like for you to reconsider some of these 5%. I just don't think it's fair for us to be paying for something we're not getting additional services for. That is the first one. The 004 budget, I know that Tony and Darren are still working on a landscape agreement. The last I heard, Darren was waiting to hear from Tony. So I'm hoping before the final budget, we get all of that in place. And I know Mr. McCulka did send an email to all of the supervisors, and I believe to Chelsea, on the reserve, the road reserve, sidewalk reserve, and street sign reserve funding, how we're planning on doing that. So I really like to ask that the board consider removing those funds, the reserve allocation on those items from this budget.
Which would be subject to seeing what Joe sent in, right?
Yeah, well,
That's
you all
the
would
letter
have
we're waiting on.
Yeah.
you all would have received it. And I know he sent the email out a couple days ago.
Okay, I haven't seen anything.
Neither have I, but I'm not real good about keeping up with it.
Okay,
Well, that's what I mean.
I will ask him to send it again, because that's like 250
Yeah,
or
that's-
more $1,000 that
that's
we
the
would like to
document
have
we were waiting
removed.
on. Yeah.
Okay. Have we heard anything on the insurance claim from Hurricane Ian?
I'll give an update during my update later. On that.
Okay, all right. And the last thing, and I'll make this very, very quick, is that I'm still concerned about this landscape contract, that it was reduced. The reduction of that was 12% of the total amount. We got a 12% reduction. But if you look at 75%, there's an actual 75% reduction in the mowing and trimming that they're doing inside Stony Brook. And there's a 90% reduction in the amount of shrub trimming, mulching, and weeding. So I don't know how that equates to a 12% reduction when the services we're receiving are a lot less. And I would like to have the opportunity to sit down with Mainscapes and find out how they came to that calculation, because I've been told the persons that renegotiated the contract for Stony Brook no longer work here, and no one can explain how that calculation was determined. That's my time.
Time's up. Okay.
So I apologize for being late. I missed some of Margaret's comments, but I can actually answer the last one of her concerns regarding the mainscape and how they came out with the.
Make sure your microphone's on and you're talking.
Okay, sorry. So regarding the last question, we reached out to Mainscape and who was the account manager? Because they did send out, and I think you were included in the email. It was per hour. So I think you responded it to me. It was based on the hours. It was like 8 days, 20. My memory serves me right. $27 an hour, and it was it was a dollar amount, and that's how they did the math. Did you recall that?
Yeah, I remember seeing that, but when you calculate that out, it's still way over.
So I guess.
They have an itemization. Why don't we just
They did.
ask them for an itemization, give us a detailed breakdown?
They did it by the hour.
Well, that's fine.
Because
but
that's how our
still-
contract is. Our
but-
contract is not separated by shrubs is one price.
But it
one-
would be an extension and then you add it all up and you'd have the total.
Yes.
So if they have that, that should be
Okay.
able to give us a pretty good idea of what.
I'd like to, Doug is online.
Can I have a motion to allow Doug to join the meeting?
Yeah, I'll make the motion
Second.
to extending circumstances.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've been having some problems with Mainscape on some of our accounting details. They like to go from A to Z and not provide me with B to Y of how did you get from here to here? And we've been working with them and saying, this is the format we want it in, such that if you're giving me a presentation for a $30,000 item, I don't want to see 3 entries unless those 3 entries are for 3 things you're purchasing, and that is all. I want to see a complete detail, labor and materials.
The difficulty with the Mainscape contract is how it was bid 3 years ago, is that it's lump sum prices, it's not itemized, and that will change next year.
Okay.
So that's why, because even when we got the email, Margaret had made that comment saying like, this is just, doesn't feel accurate. So I follow up with how, besides the hour, like how, and it was pretty much, that's how long it takes, and that's how long it's not going to take, so that's how much we're removing.
So this isn't a change, is this a change order to the current contract?
Now, this was when
Or is it part of?
when we removed all of the HOA properties from the district's contract. And that was the total that Mainscape provided us, was the reduction of price.
But it's subject to the terms of the current agreement?
Yes,
Okay.
from 2017, yeah.
But they still can break it down and itemize it to where you can make sense of what's going on in combination of labor and materials.
Yep.
All right, next we have Vince Lafredo from Bluestone Circle. It says non-agenda Stony Brook 004 fund.
Good afternoon. I know things are getting hot and heavy in Stony Brook when we have 2 board of supervisors attend 2 months in a row in our one of our HOA meetings. Thank you, Flavia, for showing up in May. There's a quote by Will Rogers, anybody familiar with him? Don't let yesterday take up much of today. And that's not what I want to do. I want to bring up, I went through the documents online concerning Stony Brook and the 004 fund, what wants to be implemented. And I don't know how quick this is happening. I've questioned my HOA on these very details. I've come here before on different issues. There are, in the question areas up there are roughly 16 or 17 questions. I had several. I think I can get them in 3 minutes. But my question is, when we're paying CDD, non-ad valorem taxes annually, we're paying roughly about 15 something in Stony Brook per house. I know a half goes to the general fund. The other half, I'm always assuming, has gone to our 004 fund for infrastructure. Am I right in assuming that?
It's only for the things that we own that are in your community and dedicated to you.
Okay, so if assets right now are given over to Stony Brook that are CDD assets, as I see the terminology in the question.
Transfer?
It's a transfer, it's not a giving. In other words, we would be taking the transfer responsibility for the roads and all of the other maintenance things that are involved in that.
just like all the other communities in Gateway.
All right, so if that were the case, then what you're saying is that 004 fund becomes the responsibility of Stony Brook. And those funds are handled by them.
Totally.
So we're collecting there. The other part, the general revenue fund, what does Stony Brook get out of that?
General revenue, the
Well, you're
regular
splitting-
001 account,
The 001 account.
same thing that every other person in all of Gateway, excluding Pelican Preserve, gets.
So would it be,
Everything.
so we're talking whatever, a miscellaneous would be Parks and Rec.
Parks,
and-
recs,
and-
roads,
Stormwater, everything.
stormwater,
Utility,
everything.
everything.
But if that were the case, and the assumption being that you take over, Stony Brook takes over the roads. And again, I haven't seen much activity other than last year when we put the roads on the main drag, Gateway Boulevard, or on Pebblebrook rather. None of the side streets have been done. I've lived there 9 years. So I always have questioned how much infrastructure we've taken care of there. We've gotten two floods, 2017. I question the amount of weight put on the roads at that time concerning our drainage. If in fact we take this over and a year later we have a problem with our drainage that hasn't been checked as far as I can see from the CDD over the years, who would handle that? Would we
The
be
drainage is
responsible?
still ours. Stormwater management's ours. We're not, that's a part of your 001 account. The 004 account is only handling basically the road-related landscaping, sidewalks,
Signage.
pavement,
Signage.
street lights, signage, that stuff.
So as
So
far as.
storm management is in your you pay that, your share, just like we do in Gateway Greens. That's paid for by your people in the 001 share of the costs.
I would say this, and this is an opinion as a resident, when I get the taxes from Lee County, I pay those annually, I see they break down everything and what they do with the money. It's not done with a CDD, maybe by law you can do that. But it would really help residents if they had a breakdown of the way the monies are spent. Parks and Rec and all the rest.
Are they asleep?
Yeah.
We've been doing this for years. The 004 account is in here, book, chapter, and verse, along with 001 and 002. I mean, there
Every
must
line.
be 80
Believe me,
80 pages of
I
detail.
have been through the budgets. I have questioned you in the last couple of years when these budgets have come out. That's been the biggest concern for me. It's 3 minutes out.
I'll allow you,
The
yeah, I was
quick-
gonna
well,
allow you
thank
to
you for
mark,
the
because
extra
we
time.
kind of went in, do you have any other questions that you just wanted, the
I let it
question?
go for a while.
Okay, you did,
Well,
okay.
What we might want to do, and talk, we can talk about it later,
All right,
is
that's
that
fine.
I think maybe what we need, I don't have it over at Gateway, but maybe we need it at Stony Brook. We need to send 777 residents, sort of like a newsletter, and tell them what's going on and attach this. Maybe they're not reading or comprehending, but if they get this.
I think
I
the
agree.
problem is, based on my experience, 99% of the people don't even know what a CDD is. I can tell you personally, when I worked elections the last 7 years, people that live in Hampton Park don't know what CDD is.
Well, that's
But
higher,
it's-
that's higher than my Gateway Greens.
Well.
Mine don't know. I think 9 out of 10 don't know.
It is something to question, way monies are spent. So anyway, I appreciate the comments and thank you for.
Thank
that.
you.
And the detail is laborsome to go through.
Yeah. Well, I've done
To
it.
find,
did
I
it-
know, but to
did
find
it.
the gold nuggets, a lot of times you don't know what you're even
It's like
reading.
But
like
that's what brought
watching
up
Like
other
paint,
uniforms
questions. When
and
you go
things
line
like
by
that.
line and you bring up other questions, that's what happens.
watching paint dry is what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I want to be clear, if there are any questions regarding the budget, people can contact through customer care, can call staff. Those opportunities are out there.
But I'm in line with Ed, if, I mean, the more information we give it out to the residents, the more we educate them, and the most transparency it's the easier it's gonna be down the road now, and just build this.
Well, that's why we drafted that FAQ document, was to try to help with that transparency with the Stony Brook.
Well, the
folks.
FAQ document attached to the current version number 2, June 15th. We sent it to them. I mean, we can take the horse to the water, but we can't make it drink. If they aren't going to read it and absorb it, then there's nothing we can do, and they're going to be frustrated. But if you go through the first 5 pages of this book, it pretty well tells you book, chapter, and verse what our costs are for roads, park, recreation, and stormwater management. So the people can see it there, and they see how it adds to their 001 account to come up with their total account when you throw in the 004. I think they just need to understand that it's not simple. There's a lot of paperwork that creates this. Send it and see what they say.
But
for.
the,
I have
but the
a- I have a
level of
question.
understanding between, excuse me, between 01, 04, 02 is just not there in the enterprise.
It's that way in the whole community.
And
It is, that's right.
I like Carolyn, and I have one more. Go ahead, Carolyn, I have one more.
Yeah, we all got the email from Joe Nicolka about the road reserves and what happened at their last Monday night meeting of their board and all that sort of stuff. Maybe Chelsea, could you just give us a quick update as to where, because the two comments were from Stony Brook, where are we on the whole Stony Brook thing?
Yep, so I can speak to that real quick. So we finished the frequently asked questions that we put together last week, and that was posted on Friday on our website, and we sent it to the Stony Brook HOA, all of the members of the HOA.
Okay.
I don't know if they passed that on to their residents or not. We got an email back. Tony had reached out to Darren, their attorney, earlier this week and got a response from Darren. Tony is working on cleaning up that final version.
Well, it shouldn't take that long because they're not significant.
Substantial comments, yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to be sending, once Tony's done with that, we're going to send that back to the HOA and ask for them to execute that landscape maintenance agreement and then bring it back to you all. I'm very hopeful it'll come to your August 3rd meeting. And then at that same time, immediately thereafter, we can amend the Stony Brook, the Mainscape contract to remove everything Stony Brook from that contract. And depending on what the board wishes to do with the new information with regards to the reserves, I will give you a heads up that the board, the HOA board can approve it, but until they get 80% of their residents to sign off on taking over those roads, it means nothing.
Record owners.
So,
Record owners, thank you. Sorry, Tony.
Yeah.
No
yeah,
problem.
Big difference.
so will any of this be completed before we pass the final budget?
The landscaping portion of it potentially can be if we can get it executed prior to the 17th when we adopt the budget, we'd be able
Okay.
to remove that line from the budget.
So, and then
But not
also.
the roads.
The roads.
So also what Tony sent today was a draft template to the county attorney's office for their review for what the residents will need to sign
A
in
form
order
of
to
consent.
consent to that, to get to the 80% to
Okay.
turn over the roads. So there's been a lot of moving parts on the back end. I know another item with Stony Brook, they said that they wanted to move forward on the side street FPL LED conversion. We got that signed yesterday and sent off to FPL, so that's moving. There's been a lot of time dedicated to Stony Brook over the last month at least.
Okay, so basically what we had in the budget for the high water mark for Stony Brook is, other than the landscape contract, is probably going to have to stay there,
The land,
just in
I could
case.
see the landscape contract come down and then the percentage of the landscape contracts manager position come down.
The
Okay.
staffing costs would be reduced as well, yes.
So
But
those
the
are
other items are going to have to stay until they get this 80% completed and all that
that
sort
would
of
be my,
stuff.
that would be my recommendation.
Okay, all right,
Did,
thank you.
have we gotten a resolution, this might answer yours, Margaret, what I'm guessing you're gonna say. Have we got an opinion from whoever it is that we have to get an opinion, that when we sign on the dotted line and we are all happy, we have everything that we've asked for, and we can make, and we got the 80% votes, and we actually physically turn this over, are there any catches out there that we are aware of right now that's going to be a reason for having a whole lot of dissension one more time? What my thing is from just a real simple deal. 004 is here now, 004 is over here with you, book, chapter, and verse. I am getting feedback that that's not going to be that simple. Are there components? Let's take, for example, what we just talked about. We put in this 200 and whatever Margaret said, $225,000, $230,000 in this capital. When we make the change and we haven't spent any of that money yet, does that 225 go over unencumbered?
Should.
No, it
That's
cannot
what I
go to the
think.
association.
I'm sorry?
It
The
cannot,
HOA.
No.
no,
goes
it
to the
cannot go to
homeowners.
the association. I think
It
I think
So Similar to.
Wait a minute, well, we're getting two different stories
Let's have
here.
Tony answer the
No,
question.
we cannot, they're public funds, we cannot give it to the, I do not have an opinion that we can provide it to the HOA, okay?
So do they eat off of it and we dole it out over time?
What we could do is that to the extent that there are O&M assessments in the future, which there will be for Stony Brook, we can notify the property owners in Stony Brook that we will utilize that money for a different purpose. And the purpose would be to basically reduce their portion of the O&M assessments attributable
So
to
by
Stony
then,
Brook.
by then.
A credit,
Yes, a credit.
a credit for the following year on their assessment, so they'll be paying less.
Okay.
So
Would
basically,
last no longer than the next year?
it'd be a transfer basically to the O&M side, what would happen.
But the bottom line is if we collect 255,000 or whatever the number is from Stony Brook residents, they get one way or the other, 255,000.
In my
Absolutely.
opinion, yes.
Okay. That's what I want to make sure.
The HOA is not the one who wrote the check
Understand,
to.
a poor choice of words. Thinking the people that paid it are gonna get it
The
back
residents,
one way or another.
the
That's
property
a
owners.
better
yeah.
way
The
to say it.
property, okay.
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 I got it, I
Margaret
got
has
it.
a question.
We have
I
one,
have two comments to read in
Okay.
if we're done. Okay, there were two emails.
Yeah, no.
I don't have anybody, let me check, nobody online, but I have two emails that I need to read into the record and I'll make sure they get filed. The first one came from Matthew, I'm not sure, Legger. It says, "Hi, my name is Matthew Legger. I am a resident in Stony Brook, own businesses and property in downtown Fort Myers, serve on the Fort Myers Planning Board and Resilient Lee Board, as well as run a 501c3 nonprofit to benefit the local park system. My comment is in regards to the new Gateway Services building at Gateway and Griffin. I have no doubt that the space is needed to support neighborhood function, but believe it will be better suited as part of a cohesive town center. The town center, and then in parentheses downtown, would be a great place making centerpiece to our community. The Gateway Services needs could easily be filled inside the 2 to 3 story mixed use development. There would be additional funding opportunities with the Resilient Lee Board looking to fund walkable communities. I would also suggest that FEMA money that subsidizes the Gulf Coast landfill also come back into Gateway. Please let me know who the proper contact is to discuss further." And then I have one other one from Karen Ferraccio and from Magnolia Lakes. It says the subject is water rate increase. The county commissioners approved the building of 2 new sections of multifamily housing in Gateway. Since each unit is considered 1.5 cars, therefore we will have thousands in extra vehicle traffic daily and thousands of extra people using water. Utility increases can sometimes be justified. However, we are being penalized for their reckless development decision-making. That is all for public comments.
So I'm going to have, Margaret, you had one follow-up question. You should just come to the microphone.
Just wanted to remind the board. It was Margaret Feinberg, Stony Brook at Gateway, speaking for myself, that at a previous meeting, it was indicated to Stony Brook that if we came up with an alternative plan for funding the reserves for the roads, or we were willing to take responsibility, the HOA said, we'll sign an agreement that we are responsible for the reserving for the roads, that it would be removed from the budget. And now
That's correct.
it doesn't sound like that's going to take place. And we have come up with alternative funding, and we are, as a board, voted and agreed that we would do that at our last Monday night's meeting.
Well,
And
what I understood,
It's
what I understood,
Doug, let me just Margaret finish and then I'll have you. answer.
okay, sure.
And as Carol stated, Mr. McCulka did send an email saying that we had come up with a way to fund the reserves. So I guess our request is please remove that from the budget. If we're moving toward taking over the roads, we've already started the process. And that was another caveat, that in good faith, you would not make us reserve for the roads.
Doug, go ahead.
Yeah, from what I understood from the board majority was if Stony Brook board in their meeting voted in good faith to proceed with efforts of taking over the road, that would be enough for us to pull that additional reserves amount out of this budget. But if it does not go through, then let's say next year, when we're going through the same thing, we would, we would add whatever our reserve philosophy is, we could add that back in at a future time. But we asked the board to, in good faith, vote in a public setting to agree to move forward on efforts to take over the road, because it's not a board decision. It'll be the community, but they'll need to back it. And if they did that, we would pull the reserves out, and what would be left would be whatever, staffing costs or whatever, whatever makes sense. But I do remember that's what we told them.
I thought we were waiting on simply a letter.
I agree. I think
Yeah,
that was.
we received it.
You brought it up.
Yeah.
Well, we received it yesterday.
Well,
Yeah.
That,
and I want,
and then in addition to that, the letter, it does require actions, because the residents have to vote on that funding, like creating a capital contribution. They have to follow the documents. It's not a board decision of Stony Brook. They can just, the 7 of them call and make that. They have to, get a quorum. I'm not saying it's difficult or not. It's not up to them.
Yeah, but that's going to take,
Yeah.
but we understood, but Flavia, we understood that's not going to happen overnight. That's going to take time for them to have town hall meetings and to have votes and all that stuff. I remember sitting on this board and we all agreed that we would not pull the reserves out unless the board voted in favor of taking over the roads, and that they would proceed with actions in good faith to facilitate that process. We've said it multiple times.
Yeah,
Okay,
I would agree.
If I could, Doug, I have no problem with doing that. Pull the reserves this year, give them the time to do the 80% or to get their committal, with the caveat that if the 80% initiative fails, that next year they double the contribution. In other words, we take.
Well, I would say, I don't
is-
disagree. I don't disagree with the fact that we would, next year's budget, we would determine what that reserves are. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable saying double or what that amount is at this particular point, but I think we'd be within our rights if the vote failed and Stony Brook cannot, the residents don't want Stony Brook to take over the roads, or they can't support the votes, then we will have to implement our reserve standard as we're going to set forth in this budgeting term.
And maybe double would be too strong, but whatever the amount would have been in 23.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah, recalculate to next year to make up for the shortfall.
Yeah.
And get then.
Completely agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Can we do that, Tony?
Next year?
This
Well,
year?
If we drop it this
For
year,
this
Correct.
year's
Yeah,
budget?
drop it this year.
that only come. If it
board-
doesn't come in,
The board, basically, the board can't commit this year to do what they're gonna do next year. They have to do it at that time.
Right.
And the board has total discretion to say the amount is X, and whether it's 2X, 3X,
Okay.
4X.
No. Can we take it out this
Sure.
year?
Yes.
Yes.
When you adopt the final budget, you can reduce that budget for the Stony Brook 004 fund by 250, yes.
And then if they don't get their 80%, we
Next year,
can
adjust.
fund it however.
adjust it accordingly
Fund
next
it,
year.
yeah, fund it however you believe is
I
appropriate.
just didn't want next year to come up and then say, oh, what a surprise.
Or there
Yeah.
may be another option. If there becomes an issue, we always have the ability, as I understand, to do a special
Special
assessment.
assessment.
Yeah, you know, yeah, the board.
So we can, if it looks like it's going down the tubes and we're not going to get the vote, we can always do a special assessment.
Yeah, the board can at
Okay.
any point in time hold public hearings, levy a special assessment just for Stony Brook for the particular project. And the project would be the capital project, I'll call it for my purposes, milling, repaving, resurfacing. And then it would be a direct bill special assessment with people have to pay within a certain number of days. It does not go on the tax bill. Then we have the revenue, or the board can put it on the a direct bill it. And then to the extent people do not pay, here's the choices: foreclosure, which is not fun, or roll it to next year's tax roll.
Well, my
You can
point,
put the direct bill unpaid on next year's tax
my
rolls.
point is that the thought of a special assessment gives the voter incentive to vote affirmatively.
Yes,
there's a lot of work with a special assessment.
absolutely.
I understand that.
But we're
Yeah.
giving the board the time to do their backup work with their community. And they're not being assessed this year,
And we're honoring what we said.
and we're honoring what we said. I think.
And I just read Joe's email, and he does say the first sentence that the board, that's what they voted on, and that's, I
So
mean,
this
how,
way-
the how, it's
We're supporting.
just, yeah.
So then on August 17th at our meeting, we can have one of the calculations that we will make out of probably many that day would be to,
Remove that.
to remove that.
Yes.
I don't see any reason why we do it today. What's it going to gain?
Well, the board, again, is not taking action on the budget today. You've already indicated, you have the newspaper ads out there, you have a particular budget with particular.
There's an item later on in today's agenda that you, for part of budget discussions.
So we
Okay.
can, we can
I-
add to it, okay.
I'm just trying to, I saw you reading it.
Yeah.
I don't recall seeing that, but
It came
if you've
in
got it.
late yesterday.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so that's the thing, like, you know, I get it, but it happens a lot, like, it just got here 5 minutes ago, kind
But
of thing.
in my opinion.
But I'm glad
that-
they did.
My opinion is that is what I believe we said.
Randy
Yeah.
sent me.
And I think, Ed, you've given the direction or the recommendation, and I think the board supports to Chelsea or, and Laura to be prepared at the next, voting cycle to have that reserves pulled ahead of time, so we don't have to have this conversation.
Stephen could be told, get version 3 and have it ready for that.
Correct.
That is probably the easiest one we will have to finalize.
Yeah, I'd rather wait and
Well,
try to
let's-
do everything after the 3rd so that it's ready to go for the 17th, so we aren't constantly doing revisions. I'm keeping a list.
Have that off the table, so that's
Okay.
not going to hold anything up.
We've got the sense, whether we voted today or not, you got it.
We have no other public
You
comment.
said Randy had a,
No, it's fine.
okay.
You guys talked about it already. No other public comment.
All right, so local achievements and recognitions? Do
I
you
don't
have
have
any?
anything.
Okay. Advisory committees and items to report?
The Parks and Recreation Committee is not going to be meeting in July or August. So September is when they'll have their next meeting, and I'll report on it then.
Approval of minutes?
There are none.
Oh. Consent agenda items, does anybody want to pull anything?
No, I'll move to approve consent agenda items A, B, and C, and I have no questions on any of them.
I have a motion.
I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 So we had a little technical error for the next part, well, with 10 and 13. We seem to miss our engineer's task authorization in the actual report, but we have it here, and Stephen is here to present to you all.
Okay.
So, Tony, you got out of it too. But we
Well, no, a minute, I'm not out of it. We-
Good afternoon, Stephen Agapi, Tetra Tech District Engineer. We have our task authorization update. Irrigation meter replacement. There was a meeting yesterday, pre-con meeting. They're still scheduled to start construction next week. Irrigation pump station generator. We're reviewing shop drawings right now.
Let's go back real quick.
Yes, ma'am.
There is a system-wide irrigation shutdown beginning Monday through next Wednesday. So the entire irrigation system will be down for at least 3 days because we are physically taking apart the pipes and the meter and everything in the back and putting it brand new. So, and communications will continue to go out and remind everybody.
Irrigation.
Monday through Wednesday.
Yes.
Irrigation pump station generator, we're reviewing shop drawings. The generator has a long lead time. It's about 70, I think 72 weeks. Yeah,
Is that more than a year?
that is slightly more than a year.
Holy moly.
72.
They're in high demand. Irrigation enforcement improvements, we're delivered 90% plans this week. Flowway weir adjustments, the contractor is scheduled to be out tomorrow to continue the restoration efforts on the project, and hopefully we'll be able to get that wrapped up here very shortly. Griffin utility relocation, this week they installed casing underneath Gateway Boulevard for the potable water and irrigation mains.
Next Wednesday, we anticipate the lane shift. They had some rain delays yesterday, but
Are they going to move all of the traffic over to the southbound
Yep.
lane? So as to free up the northbound lane to do all the work?
Yep.
They were paving in that area, like by the entrance to Fairway Lakes, they were putting blacktop in there so that people would get by.
because that's pretty narrow for two cars opposing, especially with trucks.
So that shift will be in the next week.
Be a good place to avoid.
There's Joe. Done the first 5.
Aerator FPL assistance, we had to shift gears and prioritize the storage building and the generator shop drawings. With those out of the way, we're going to put our focus back on the aerator FPL assistance and get that project concluded. Phase 2, Year 2 lake bank restoration. We're still on delay until hopefully November to wrap up those projects. The utility storage building submitted to Lee County this week, waiting for their comments. We have the South Florida permit. We will proceed with bidding the project out. Gateway admin building, Chelsea had about an hour meeting with Lee County today to discuss the DO comments. One of the biggest ones was the requirement for that sidewalk.
And architectural commercial design
Right.
standards. Yeah,
I don't know if there was any resolution to that, but
wasn't there?
FY '24 lake bank restoration. Permit is into Lee County for their review and comments. We haven't heard anything back yet. SRF did provide notice last week that our plans and specifications were approved, and it's going to move forward to the hearing, which will take place on August 9th. So everything checked out there. We're just waiting for them to have their hearing. Same thing with FY '25 design. It's the same date for that hearing. Timber Creek sheet flow analysis last time. We had a meeting. We talked about us updating it based on record drawings. We're doing that now. Hydraulic model, this was to support the effort for the FGUA interconnect. We're finalizing that report. Pelican Pond Bank inspection. Today we finished our field investigations, and the next 2 weeks we'll wrap up our report for that. Public Works Maintenance Building. It's a newer project. This is the Public Works Storage Building that will be, is proposed to go to the east of the dog parks and the soccer fields. Miscellaneous development updates, Arborwood, we're still working through some punch list items with the developer. Daniels Parkway Apartments, still working through some issues with irrigation. I don't know if there's nothing new there.
I'll report on that.
10-4. Santa Luz, we referred their lack of erosion control to Lee County Code Enforcement this week. So hopefully they'll be able to get that into working order soon. Sentosa Apartments, the Alto rezone, we're still waiting for an official submittal by them. And that is it for my updates.
Stephen, could you add the item for the Prado drainage issues,
Yes.
just to keep it in front of us?
Yeah, an update on that. Chelsea forwarded our memo.
Some of us pronounce it Prado,
Prado.
Prado, whatever.
What's the official?
Prado.
Prado. is the-
Like Prada, but Prado. That's what he told me.
I called
Okay.
it Prado before she got here, but all right.
What did the developer call it when they sold
Potato,
it?
potato.
Yeah.
Sold is what they
Yeah.
called it.
So it's in their court right now. We Chelsea forwarded our memo to them, and we haven't
No,
heard
I'm
anything
okay with
back.
that, but I just want to see it on this matrix, that's all.
10-4. Anything else?
For Stevens? A lot on his plate.
Probably gets the big bucks.
Okay.
Thank you all.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Admin agenda items.
Yep, I believe we have the auditor here to give a presentation.
Did you get my presentation?
Yes, we did.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Pull it up and you can just tell us when to slide down or go to the next slide.
While we're doing that, my name is Jay Gaines. I'm the audit director with Berger, Toombs, Elam, Gaines, and Frank. And we performed the audit of Gateway Services for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2022.
That tree we received.
Small forward.
And so generally, you told us we're in good shape.
Yes, but there's some things I want to,
Okay.
I just want if the slides aren't available, I can. Okay. Okay, you can switch to the third slide. I want to point out that there was a new GASB standard this year, which is called GASB 87. It has to do with leases, and it changed how governmental entities account for leases. And Gateway had one lease, and it's described in detail in Note H of the financial statements. And on the horizon to be implemented next fiscal year is GASB 96, which has to do with subscription-based information technology arrangements, which we don't think right now applies to you because you don't have any subscription-based technology arrangements.
Where do we have a lease?
Fairly Lake.
Duh,
So
couldn't figure out what the hell. Okay, forgot
So
about
our
that.
report this year is what we call an unmodified opinion. And it says the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the governmental activities, business type activities, each major fund and the aggregate fund information of Gateway Services Community Development District as of September 30th, and the respective changes in financial position and the budgetary comparison for the general Pelican Preserve, Stony Brook, Town Lakes, and Lake Bank Restoration Funds for the year then ended. And like I said, that's an unmodified opinion, so that means all the numbers in the financial statement are stated materially correct. We also issued two other quote-unquote reports opinions. We issued an internal control compliance letter, which is required by governmental auditing standards, and we noted no instance of noncompliance or other matters or internal control matters that are required to be reported under governmental auditing standards. In our management letter that's required by the Auditor General, there were no findings. And then there is an attestation report that we include that has to do with Section 218, 415 Florida statutes, and you complied with that. And that has to do with investments. You didn't do any bad investments. Then we issued a single audit because you had in excess of $750,000 in state funds that you expended. The total was $903,000. We had no findings or question cost, and the district complied in all material respects with the compliance requirements described by the Florida Department of Financial Services. Then on the next slide is our financial position and results of operations, which gives you on the left side is the ending fund balances and net positions, and on the right side is the statement of changes of fund balance and net position. I do want to point out that at the bottom that you had a deficit fund balance in the Lake Bank Restoration Special Revenue Fund, which you've had for several years, and that's because you borrow the money from the state, spend it, and so that creates a deficit fund balance because it's with borrowed money. So then we also have what I call the Enron letter. On the slide, it's called SAS 114. But this letter was a letter that we are now required to send in conjunction with our audit to the board, because when the Enron audit failure happened, the board did the see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil routine and said that the auditors never talked to them. And so now there are certain required disclosures that we have to put in a letter, which you've all received, and it's communication of management responsibilities. And we also want to point that there were no immaterial, uncorrected misstatements were identified. Now, we called that a much more benign past AJEs. And what those would be, so you put something in fuel that should have been in utilities, and it was for $500. Well, that's immaterial, so we're not going to adjust that because it's immaterial. Now they call it immaterial, uncorrected misstatements, which I think is much more negative. And that concludes my presentation, and I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Means you aren't going to jail.
So,
You had a question.
yeah, if we ever go to a new metering system, and let's say that system is monitored by computers, so people don't go actually out and read the water meters anymore type thing, does that qualify for that thing you said?
Subscription, you talking
No,
about?
I don't think so. I think that this is related to essentially cloud-based
Software.
ERCs, which are,
ERCs?
which is a program that you operate your system with. So it would have your general ledger on it, things like
Oh,
that, okay? So it's,
We have that, that's what, that's.
We launched.
Well, this is for last year.
but that's since last year. So,
Yeah.
so now you
Next year
are,
we'll-
Next year.
now you are, and we're gonna have to implement it, but,
Okay,
and it's, the rules are very similar to the lease.
okay.
But, you know, it's ironic to me. I've been doing this a long time, and so I can remember when everybody switched to GASB 34, because in the old model, we had this group called the long-term debt group. And it kept track of your long-term debt. And then you had two assets. One of them was amount available in debt service funds, which was the fund balance of all the debt service funds. And then you had another account called amount to be provided. And so everybody was up in arms because that was a fake asset. So now we've gone to the new lease standard. And what they've done is, rather than showing the lease commitment in the notes, they brought the lease liability on the face of the financial statements. And so they had to offset that. So they offset it with right to use future lease benefits. So it's a made-up asset. So, you know, it's just funny how things change and they stay the same.
Sounds like
Any
made
other
up-
questions?
made up work.
Do you have a question, Bob?
Just one question. Is it typical that it takes 8, 9 months to get this thing? I mean, this is for close of business last year, right?
Yes. A lot of it depends on timing of when we get it, and, you know, there's just a lot of factors. The state law requires that it be done by June 30, which is 9 months.
Next year, you'll get it sooner. Next year.
Well, I
yeah.
didn't know, but I mean,
Everything
if
was
we were all
filed-
screwed up, I'd hate to hear it now, 10 months later. I'd like to-
Everything was filed on time. It was all filed by June 30th, but you just didn't get the report.
Any other
Okay.
questions?
Nope.
No, all right, thank
Nope.
you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Too.
The utility rates study?
Yep, so this next item is a proposal from Raftellus to, what we were supposed to do a rate study in a year and a half. This would bring it a year sooner. We feel that it's necessary considering all of the capital improvements that we have forthcoming. And then also we have the 8% that the county put on us, and so depending on what happens, but either way, we'd suggest, since we just did a very thorough 10-year CIP, that we exercise this and have Raftellus do this rate study. They do have some time available towards September that they feel that this could be a quick turnaround for them.
This
Move
is
to
not,
approve.
this isn't a lump sum, it's a
Not
not
to
to
exceed.
exceed.
Not to
Yeah,
exceed.
okay. That's
Okay,
good.
so we have a motion from Carol. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Did you want to have a budget discussion or do you want to wait? That's
Well-
what's next.
If you want to provide direction to staff.
I'm fine with that. The only thing that I don't see the need for us to wait until next meeting, so I would say for us to go ahead and pull the $223,000 for the reserves for Stony Brook, given that I just went back and read. To me, it's clear. It's not it's their board's directive, and that's what they're gonna go with.
And I do have another smaller savings that we can take off. I mean, it's $15,000, but we had added in $15,500 for the strategic plan for next year, and I can remove that from the professional fees because you voted to take that from your contingency money for the board to have that done this fiscal year
This year.
instead. So I have a note to remove that as well.
And we're working through, from the last board meeting, there were 4 items that you all had requested us to look a little bit further into. We're getting those numbers, and we'll have them at your, hopefully at the August 3rd meeting for your review.
Okay, so for me, if you just make those notes.
I've got one I want to make sure, because I had to call you, and you acted like you were a little bit surprised as I was. I talked to Stephen Bloom late last week, trying to go through and figure out why, when you look at the budget, and then you go to the front of the budget, the numbers don't add up. I couldn't get any combination of things that would fall in stormwater, roads, and or parks and rec. I mean, those numbers simply did not match. He came back.
He
and
is online if you'd like him to, if you'd like
Okay.
to ask.
He sent me a breakdown on the 001. Essentially what this boils down to, and Stephen or Chelsea jump in, we have a line item, I didn't realize it, that we have an arbitrary line item in our budget of 4%.
Yes.
That is essentially the money that we have to pay the county for what could be a credit on the non-ad valorem. Wasn't aware we were doing that we have to pay that. So if you go in and you look at the total of our budget of what the actual expenditures are, was that 7 million or whatever the number was, 460, and his was about 4% higher. And what it was the add-on for the county giving a credit
Discount.
for the taxes. I wonder where we were
What does
doing
that mean
that.
again?
When you pay your taxes, you get your bill in October. If you pay it in
Oh, you pay
November,
early.
you get to pay early. And they have to credit, because if 100% of the people paid early,
You'd be 4% short.
you'd be 4% short. The issue is I still have an issue with that 4% assumes 100%. Well, that's not gonna happen. So there is some fat in there, but to what it was,
Well, I always pay
190?
it early. Why wouldn't you pay it early?
Huh?
I think most people would pay it early and get the savings.
The
I'm
discount,
surprised that
yeah.
it's not that high. I would think it would be at least 90%. Wrong?
It doesn't
Stephen,
work
do
that
you,
way.
do you know about what percent of the people pay early? I think it's a pretty large percentage if I'm.
It is, yeah, it is I'm sorry, this is Stephen Bloom. If you wanted me to answer that question, I can. If not, I don't want to step on anybody else.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it changes from year to year, but it is a significant percentage, enough that you don't want to be short. I mean, that's the bottom line, is you just don't want to be short. And as Ed said, it is done every year. It's kind of a requirement. You have to provide those discounts as being a part of this, collecting this approach. So, and it's always going to be, for the general fund, it is always the second line on your budget, right after the assessments levy. You'll see the very next row is the discounts, and it's always going to be, a credit number, because that is what it is. And so basically you're assuming 100%, like you mentioned, that everyone would be paying within the first month.
Yeah, Stephen, you sent me that email and you copied Laura and Chelsea. I thought that explanation along with the attachment really helped on that, because I was going crazy trying to figure out how's come you've got X and you're putting in Y as the total, and the math wasn't there. But this explains it. So Chelsea, you might want to, since I can't send it, you might want to send that out that we got to all the board members. And then there was an attachment to it that Stephen sent. Now everything falls in place.
I'll send that out to the board. Those
Yeah.
clarifications.
When I look at that second line, I see what you're talking about, but like the actual versus what we thought it was going to be, you're right. It's very high number.
But if the true payment by people in the community is that high, then there's not a lot of fat in it. But if they would be 50%, then there's a lot of fat in there.
Oh, yeah, no, because a lot of people, are paying through, their mortgage and stuff up front. It's, I can, if it'll help, I have no problems going through and looking like a 5-year trend for you to see.
I don't need that.
No.
I just couldn't make the math work, and you
Yeah.
said this, and then
Yeah,
all
I
of a
didn't
sudden,
understand
I
it,
was
so.
not aware that we had that requirement, that we have to pay them that 4%.
And again, to the extent that it helps, every other CDD, community development district, does the same thing. They budget the same way, because you never know when people may not pay. I mean, we don't know what the economy is going to be October, November.
Well, like he's saying, you don't want to be on the short side.
Correct.
So is there any other items for the budget discussion?
Yes. Since I will not be here for the next 2 meetings, and you're going to wrap up this budget before I get back, I just want to make sure that my comments from the last meeting are duly noted, that in the Pelican Preserve budget, that the O&M, I would like a 35,000 moved into a separate line item for irrigation. And then the 93,000, whatever brought down to zero. And I understand there will be discussions tomorrow about starting, basically forgetting about the O&M agreement we have right now, canceling or whatever we have to do, starting with a clean sheet of paper and seeing what kind of agreement we can get with the association,
Yes, ma'am.
the Community Association Board.
And I do have both those notes.
And
Okay,
then, and I think in
thank you.
addition, Bob had requested the $40,000 to also be removed.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna take that, I was gonna say P-PAC, because it's a double hit. They have 200,000 for capital reserve, and they put forward 40,000 for emergency, if like a hurricane. To me, that's kind of redundant. We've had two events in my 18 years here. I don't think we need to, yeah,
Okay, so
well,
I just want to make sure we don't.
yes,
Okay, so
absolutely.
here, let me read back, these are the notes that I have. I'm just starting, they're kind of out of order because this is how we talked about them. You voted yes to the dog park and we were supposed to get you the costs for that before the 17th. No to the restrooms in fiscal 24. Remove the words fun park from playground equipment. Reduce parking lot to 100K. The two items that Carol just mentioned, moving the 35,000 under the landscape thing for irrigation and removing the 93 for KW. We are going to move the Pelican Boardwalk parking to 2025. That was on the capital plan. We're working on the clarification for the $30,000 to paint the boardwalk and the bridges in Pelican. Remove $40,000 from Pelican for their emergency reserves. Remove the road reserve for Stony Brook. Move the from capital, and then the 15,500 from the strategic planning that I told you about today. That's
Okay,
my
there
list.
was one comment, I don't know that Carol was privy to this, but at the last P-PAC meeting, there was discussion about the services that we receive. I know you two are aware of this, that we receive, the community receives from calls going through KW, and that will be subject to the meeting tomorrow.
Correct.
So it may not be a clean sweep of the O&M 85, 93, whatever the number is, but we're going to come to some kind of accommodation with the community association and come up with a number. And I don't know. Okay.
Tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
And
so
whatever
then,
they come up with.
So
we're
with the
good.
budget, the way it stands today, that's the list of
Yeah.
changes that I currently have.
But it just wasn't a clean 93 went away. That's my
Okay.
purpose in bringing it up.
And then I know Flavia, you just mentioned you'd like to bring it up today about removing the service for Stony Brook, so.
I
yeah,
had
she
that
just
on there.
had,
Remove
so
the
it
road
will
reserves for
be,
Stony Brook, yeah.
it will be the roads, or will be the road, sidewalks, and the street light,
The road, sidewalk, street light, whatever that line.
it's all
with the
together,
200
so
whatever,
then it's
yeah.
not the 223, so it's 223 plus 35.
Anything else? Like I said, we're working on those 4 additional items to crunch those numbers to bring back to you at your next meeting.
Okay,
Great.
Okay. Next item. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Randy, if you want to come up, we have, the board gave direction to any and every possible grant that we can find that is out there. We found, Randy found a great grant opportunity, and with that, we'll turn it over to him.
Yeah, so this is for the National Fitness Campaign. This was presented to the PrAC in their last meeting, and this is for an outdoor fitness gym. Or if you could open the attachment so they could see it. So this is seen a lot in communities throughout Florida. It's just outdoor recreation. PrAC, like I said, approved it. The awarded amount would be $30,000, but the total lump sum would be $170K, and that includes the actual court, the installation, and then also the concrete slab. And the reason I brought it up was to discuss the financial feasibility of this actually, going through, just to align with the campaign. Yeah, just to align the campaign on whether or not we can move forward with the project. But this is a brief presentation that they have. If you want to go back.
So this would be sort of an amenity that could go to the park.
Correct. And
Yes.
then the PrAC voted to put it in the Gateway Commons. I believe the map should also be attached there.
Before the PrAC goes any further, we've got this map that's attached that Holmontis did on that original. Can we get with them and just try to get a price that we would have them get from Tetra Tech, the footprint of what we're building there, superimpose it on this very thing, and then show what we've got left. I look at that and that's.
It's there. It's very hard to see,
I
but
know it's there, but you can't see
See,
it.
it's the orange.
We can turn it into a
The
different
purple
color.
lines.
Yeah. That,
It's one of those eye exams where you focus on the difference in the building.
That's in your eyesight.
it's very
Great job,
deceiving.
Randy.
Look at,
Get the money.
So
look at things that are purple.
I'm
Look
sorry.
at purple lines.
I don't
Which is
speak purple.
difficult.
So the location, Randy, you want to touch on?
yeah, the location would be where where that brown area where it says trail and fitness area. So they said that would be the area that they would want it to be placed in. Along with that, we're also applying for the pickleball courts that they also instructed us to do, but that's a different topic. But
And then-
That's a different grant? if we do
yes,
that? Okay.
totally different.
And then, is there Naples?
Yes, so there's one at the Forum, and then there's one in Naples, and then the other one's in Fort Myers Beach, which has not been built out because of the
One at the
hurricane.
Forum.
Yes.
Forum right here at
Yep,
Colonial?
yep.
Where at?
It isn't the apartment
It's by
complex
the
out there?
apartment
It's a big
complexes. Yeah, it was like the developer
The back,
financed that.
back there, I've been
So
there,
it's-
it's really
a big
nice,
area
it's a,
back there.
yeah,
Is it big, is back off the road?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes, yeah.
I've never seen
it-
that.
You'd have to go looking for it. You won't see it.
It's almost as big, if it's not bigger than the Pelican one.
Yeah.
The pickleball.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's
Now,
a lot.
the only concern that came up at the P-PAC was that we're going to be doing construction for the administrative building. But basically, they said, well, let's go ahead and apply for it, see if we get it, and then worry about the construction and
Details
all that
later.
sort of stuff.
Yeah,
Once we get it.
there was also some concerns about parking, but I think Chelsea alluded to there being extra parking that could
Right.
facilitate that.
So I think we should go ahead with it.
What's
Applying.
what's our cost in?
So that's for applying for it. The total cost would be $170,000. So kind of needing direction on where those funds would be allocated from.
What, is that 170,000 matching something?
That's turnkey, yeah. 170,000, that's with $30,000 awarded. Yeah.
Total of 200,000. The grant is for 30 and we would pay 170.
Yeah.
That's where,
It's
yeah.
the reason I'm up here.
But there's also sponsorship opportunities with this, which we have not exercised yet. The majority of the cost is truthfully, it's the concrete pad. It requires a 6-inch thick
Yep.
concrete pad.
Let me ask you this, do you need this now or can it be August 3rd? The reason why is because I would like us for maybe partner with the gentleman from Stony Brook from the email that he sent out, because if we can layer this, like this grant plus something else from FEMA or would that be something that we could do?
Yeah, that should be fine. I think the only thing that they need is a resolution from the board adopting that that we're moving forward with this. And there's funds that are allocated. Proof of funds is really what they need.
And
August
there's,
when it's
Madam Chair,
So that's
It's
what
a
I'm
tight
saying, like, for
deadline, yeah.
me personally, I don't know for you, but it's salty. So I would have liked for us to try to see from now until August 3rd, and if the deadline is on August 4th, if you can do the homework from now until the third, and get it onto the agenda, speak with that gentleman, his name already Matt, that he's part of the resilience board, and see if
Oh,
there's
yes,
anything if there's anything that it can be,
I
Something
can
we
tell
wanna
you,
know.
I've attended those Resiliently meetings, and 70% of the revenues are dedicated to low to moderate income neighborhoods. The other 30% are dedicated to utilities, and bet your bottom dollar, Lee County is going to keep the majority of that 30% in there. We've pursued a lot of those, and timing with any type of federal or state dollars it takes a long time. If this is not the direction, we can apply next year. It's not a big deal, but this is just one we identified.
Yep.
Randy's been successful at the beach, and this is another opportunity here. They said that they potentially award up to the $30,000.
how many courts was it?
No, this isn't court.
This
This
is
is
this is a totally different one. That's the pickleball courts. That's 4 courts, and that's
an outdoor fitness
yeah.
center.
Oh, that, okay.
Madam Chairman, just
Yes.
a question, I guess, for Randy or Chelsea. Submitting of the application does not commit the board to anything
correct.
because the
Correct.
application gets submitted,
Okay,
then
that's
that
the-
organization sends us the resolution template, and then the board would adopt a resolution.
Correct.
That's where the commitment would come in at that
Okay.
point in time.
Okay, so if the
Okay.
commitment is not now, then
Yeah.
I'm
more comfortable with that.
yeah. So
We wanted to get your input and feedback, and then if it's something, but understand that the price tag is $170. I mean, we've identified a couple
Mm.
funding sources that from your budget, we've got some money in the bond, we've got those park impact fee dollars, but,
Am I correct in saying that the square these people are standing on is what we're putting in?
yes,
Okay.
well, what we would be.
Would-
Yes, Laura.
Mm.
Doug has his hand up. Yes, Doug.
Oh.
Yeah, and what I'll do is, we've got, Preferred Materials is, a concrete provider. I know we have at least one, pretty high level individual in Gateway Community that works for them. I'd love to have a conversation to see if maybe there's, concrete is the biggest cost, and concrete is expensive right now. But I'd love to at least just have a conversation with that individual to see if there's, some partnership or sponsorship or something where we might be able to, get reduced costs or favorable pricing for concrete, just if that's,
Thanks for volunteering, Doug.
yeah. I'll take care of it.
Okay, so do you get the direction from us?
Yes, so,
Another question for Randy. We tried to apply at Gateway Greens for the stormwater management, water conservation
okay,
grant with Mainscape.
okay.
Because we're talking millions of dollars on that grant through South Florida Water Management District.
Okay.
Have you talked
We're-
to Mainscape about that? Because we need to file that application pretty quickly to maybe get that in the queue.
The funding for the irrigation system replacement is already through the bond, but the spray field that we were talking about, or the redundant main, is one that we're considering applying for.
Okay, because that,
Yes,
now
it's on our radar.
that's not a $30,000 grant. That could be $1 million,
Yeah.
$2 million grant.
There's a lot of grants that we're applying for right now.
And the things they want to accomplish are the things that we're doing by what we're doing.
Okay.
So we would have
They
a
align.
really good project. Gateway Greens qualified. We made it through the first hurdle. Our problem is they ran out of money when they got to us.
I'd like for us to get through or close to 90% design, like Steven said earlier, for the force main and irrigation main redundant down the FPL easement, and I'd like for us to potentially use that.
Your biggest problem in doing the grant is the paperwork to show the savings, which means you've got to do a lot of crunching numbers. And that doesn't have anything to do with the design or anything. That's part of it, but that number crunching is the hard part of the grant.
So do you get
Yeah,
direction?
I have,
To go ahead.
I have one more question for Randy. Randy, can you just look to whether it's this specific project or others around, green or renewable or recyclable materials for parks and recs type stuff? Maybe, it seems like there may be some grants or, funding potentially available for some of those types of initiatives. I don't know if there is. I just know that, that's kind of a hot topic in a lot of areas, and there seems to be some funding for that type of stuff. Have you looked into that at all, or?
Yeah, some state and some federal grants at the beach. We were awarded $1 million for it, and that's gone up. For that one, it's the Land and Water Conservation Fund, and that's just for outdoor recreation as well, which I don't know if we would qualify for but that's something that we can always try. I think the cycles are opening for that, so that's something that we can pursue.
But is that for green initiatives or?
That's strictly for outdoor recreation, so you kind of
Okay,
come up
yep.
and
I'm talking specifically for green or, those types of initiatives. There may be different funding channels for that type of stuff,
okay.
We'll take a look.
which could be a concept for that Commons Park area is, to be green where we can. Because again, it seems to be a hot topic and there's probably maybe funding there.
Are you required to have a motion from the board or just direction?
We'll bring it back to your next
Yeah.
meeting.
I would
No.
submit to authorize the application would be a board.
Yes.
When's the timing on it?
They've already approved us at a previous meeting to apply for any grants that we can find.
I think
It would behoove us.
specific as this, I think would be helpful.
Okay, so I'll entertain a
I will
motion.
move to approve the submission of this grant application.
For the
Okay.
National Fitness Campaign.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Bob. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
District manager,
Yes,
ready?
ready when you are.
All right, Laura.
Any questions? Oh, I do have one update that's not on my report, on the administrative report. Chelsea and I had a call with our insurance carrier, the adjuster, that was on Friday, I think it was, Monday, Friday, I don't know, sometime in the last week. We are gonna be getting a total of $77,164.96 back, from our claim for Hurricane Ian. We are waiting on the details, so I can't tell you exactly what was covered or how much. They just gave us a total at this point, and we're just waiting on the detail.
What's it
Did we have a
applied to?
deductible?
I don't know, that's what we're waiting for. Yeah.
Would you be able to?
Did we have, I'm sorry, did we have a deductible?
Yes. And
How
that'll all
much?
be laid on the detail. I'm waiting for that. All they gave us was
Oh.
a dollar amount. I don't have anything to back it up at this point.
Do you have a list of total items that we claimed that
Mhm.
was damaged? Would you send that to me? I don't know if the rest of the board wanted, but.
Yeah,
just
how
for-
much was
not-
it?
not-
total
Yeah.
claim?
I'd like to
Not-
put it all together. Here's
together
what we
once, okay,
claimed, here's
that's
what we
fine.
got, and then you can see.
You know, if we
Yeah, as
claimed
soon as I have-
100,000 and we get 77, that's pretty good.
Yeah, so as soon as I have,
I don't think that's, yeah, I don't think that's
Yeah.
what it
as
is.
soon as I get the detail, I'll send you the
Okay.
list of what we sent in versus what we got.
Okay.
And of course, we'll relay that same information to the Stony Brook Advisory Committee. I know Gary had asked about it.
Warren
We had-
asked.
Warren asked, Margaret's asked, so we've had multiple requests of it.
Okay.
As soon
And
as we get it,
Pelican as well, PPAC, we'll get
we
it.
will get it to
Are
everyone.
is the cutoff time for supplemental expired for the hurricane? Like, meaning like if we find out something that was not in that list that we need to add it, what was the time frame for us to do that?
For this claim,
Yes.
We don't have a cutoff, I think, because we added some stuff within the last 60 days and
Okay. I just, so yes, then the sooner we get that report, because then
Yeah.
it's more eyes on the ground if we miss
There's
something.
latent things like mold. and
Yeah, so
stuff
that's
like
what I was
Yeah,
saying.
there
like
was some
supplemental
fencing that we
latest.
didn't notice until we were able to get back into some of the
75,
conservation
yeah.
areas. Yeah, and they
Okay.
took that, so.
Yeah, the deductibles come in and they come in at different levels for different
Correct.
items, so
Yep, exactly.
it makes it very complicated.
It's not like a blanket deductible.
No.
Everything is different.
so does anybody have any questions for the administrative month? All right, so next we have Public Works. Andrew is here. Does anybody have any questions for Andrew for his monthly?
I don't.
Can I make a couple comments?
Sure.
4th of July event, I thought went really well. I think you mentioned in the last meeting, but really happy with how that went. I think it was a good, successful community event. Thank you for everybody that was able to attend and help out. Ed was quite the judge out there on the sidewalk, so I think we had a really good time overall.
How to
So,
tick 4-year-olds off in one easy lesson.
Yeah, overall, I think it was a big success in the community, and staff did a great job.
So I thought he was
putting it
supposed to
together.
be in the dunk tank.
Oh,
He didn't go
we
in the
tried to
dunk
get him
tank?
in there, but he, yeah.
Ah.
The lever broke.
Oh, okay.
There was a weight limit.
Anything else? You'll see a new landscape person. We've got hired Scott Holtz. Really happy to have him on board. Has already hit the ground running and making a significant impact. So we're happy to have him.
What's his last name?
Scott Holtz.
HOLT.
Oh, okay, cool.
He
I
brings,
have not sent him any emails yet. It's drafted. I'm kidding.
he brings a lot of
He's
experience.
hiding.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's about 30 years experience, long-term with a couple of companies over the last 30 years. He's taken care of a lot of high-end communities. He's got already I've seen quite the attention to detail with certain items. I know we're working through several items with Mainscape and trying to get some things corrected and get back to a good
So-
standard.
We did have a very good meeting with them yesterday.
Hey,
Margaret, if you
Margaret,
could leave
we
that.
can't close the
Leave it
door
open,
because it's
please,
an open
locked.
door meeting.
Yeah.
We can't close the door because it's an open, the meeting is not a closed door meeting, so yeah.
But we can ask the noisy ones to leave.
Yeah, there you go.
So we did have a,
Let's take it out.
I'll be frank, I came back from my vacation in North Carolina and I drove Gateway and it was embarrassing. We had a meeting yesterday with over a 2-hour meeting with Mainscape, and we officially sent them a memo. I believe this morning Randy sent the memo of all of the non-compliance issues with the contract. We went over those in detail yesterday. I expect to see even more changes over the next 2 weeks. And I will be frank, Bobby and I have had extensive conversations. I personally was ready to cancel the contract because of non-compliance issues and just, this was the 4th meeting that we've had with them in the last 6 months of just expectations.
Were these sub-related issues?
No.
Because we had a big to-do with them last week, but the premier items were subs. They're doing work and having subs unsupervised. The icing on the cake was when we lost the Walden Lakes gate on the electrical. We lost it all. We had the ground electrified. When you go up to touch the kiosk, you get shot.
Whoa.
I was the first one that got it, so we shut off things real quick like. But this is how silly it gets. We had our main electrical comes to the island, then it splits into the lights, the lift arms, and the various components there that require electrical. Their sub that did plants, the annuals, our electrical box, because of all the mulch and stuff, the dirt that's been filled in over the years, was about that deep above the top. He hit it when he was putting in the plant. Dug it out, it's hard to believe, took the cap off the electrical box, filled it full of dirt and put a plant right into the electrical box.
So an electrifying.
So I'm glad
job.
we're not the only ones who's had issues.
So,
Did the
but the
plant
issue,
glow?
our issues are,
There's
well, we're
subs.
having a couple of issues, but subcontractors of theirs are beginning to be a real pain because my opinion is they're not being supervised.
So
They're just
my,
turning them loose and say, go put down mulch. We're covering all kinds of valves, water meter pits, that you
Yeah,
name
we
it.
had a lot of similar issues with mulch.
It's a
We're still working
pain.
to resolve those.
okay,
So-
so I want to make sure it's clear because within the exception of yesterday, is the only meeting that I did not attend. It's meeting after meeting, hours after hours. And from the time, I would say 2 years, I have seen nothing but a decline. If it was just the same, I'm gonna be very honest, the issues from going back on my list is nothing but a decline. Now this was not an issue, but now this is also an issue, but nothing else is being removed. My question is, the 2 weeks that you guys are giving them is to bring it back to compliance of the current contract, because that's my expectation.
Yes.
Mine as well.
Okay,
Yes.
so my expectation is not within 2 weeks, things are gonna be looking better.
No.
Is within 2 weeks, when I drive out and I go all the way around, because you guys know I do,
Mhm.
is that it is in compliance with the contract. And again, I'm not asking 100% because it doesn't say that, but I am going to,
Our
just hold them accountable to the contract. And I think that's really important. Going back to, they wanted to charge us more money for the soccer field, that was included. The mulch issue, the contract says we're supposed to get between 2 and 4 inches. You get an inch of mulch, maybe out there. So it's like either we don't pay the bill or they come back and fix it. So I'm fine with the 2 weeks for them to bring it into compliance with the contract.
What's the areas that we're talking about? That
Everything.
Everything.
There's multiple maintenance related issues and then also issues related to project that we did with mulch. I mean, of course, that's separate,
Who's our
but mulch is an item.
Who's our point of contact?
We have an account manager who's been on site, or Freddie, who's been on site.
Okay,
for many
Freddie's
years.
been over at ours for
Yeah.
So
15 years.
we had a very,
And their operations manager.
yeah, we had a very good meeting with them,
Sandra?
I think, yes. And, every meeting you attended, and I started with it yesterday, is the contract's the contract's the contract. If they don't like the contract, then we change the contract. We can do an addendum. If operationally how they're doing it is not how the contract states, we can change it.
They have increased their workforce over the last week. In every category, they've added at least a person,
Yes.
which I think will help. But they are dealing with staffing issues like a lot of
Oh,
companies right now.
No doubt about it.
So, anyway, that is a huge meeting that we had yesterday, and they, like I said, have been put on notice via official memo to them effective today that these items need to come into compliance. There are items in the contract that we can either reduce their price by $100 or contract it with somebody else.
So this is what I'm gonna kind of bring Tony into it. $100 deduction,
Yeah,
it's nothing.
I agree.
But the part of the contract says that once we give them notice and they don't comply, then we hire somebody to do it. So I would
That's more
not,
effective.
I'm not gonna, I mean, I hope that we're not using that $100, but actually getting a vendor out there doing it and billing. So Tony, does the notice that was sent out today, does it have to be specific for the items that are not being followed?
Yes, did I get a copy, Randy?
No, you did not.
Okay.
If you can send me a copy, because you need to follow the other, whatever the contract says. Typically,
The notice that was sent today was just recapping our meeting, that there are deficiencies that they are not meeting, and that we agreed to the 2 weeks. We've met 4 times before, and that we
Okay,
walked.
so then in 2 weeks, whatever
Yes.
is not followed, then we partner
We-
with Tony, and
and-
then we said this
Yes.
is not, and then we will have
are
a.
there any
Exactly.
pending
So no, it's at
invoices?
your next meeting.
Yeah, the only thing I'm cautious on this, because I've got the same issue in my deal. Let's don't jump out of the frying pan into the fire, because I'm telling you, that whole line of business is the same. You're gonna get it no matter where you go. You hit the nail on the head. Every one of them are having major, major problems with employment.
Yes.
And they basically got bit off more than they can chew. And so it's the issue of having the meetings, but boy, making big switches can be a disaster.
We're on our last year with Mainscape, so it has to go out to bid
So are
in
we.
2024.
So are
So
we.
we're learning clearly on line item. We don't want to lump sum. We want to itemize. There's a lot of learning curves.
Well, I don't know what our bids go. I don't recall the last time we did it, but over in our community, they came in and they left about $150,000 on the table 3 years ago. I've told my board, we're going to be bidding it the next time. That 150 is not going to be left. You're going to see sticker shock costs going up. So be prepared, but watch jumping off the ship, because I've dealt with 3 other different landscape companies in this area. And
Well, the beauty we have over
if
you
they're not
is
any better, I can tell you.
we can piggyback state and county and other contracts
In other districts, yeah.
and other districts. So
Do they have any invoices outstanding that they've
Yeah.
submitted?
There's a few.
we're not at that point yet.
Yeah.
I want to give them the opportunity over the
Okay,
next 2
but
weeks to
but the question, are
triage.
they proper invoices,
Yes.
Yeah,
and the work has been consistent and compliant with the contract? that they're-
That's the part I need to verify, but we do have some unpaid invoices. They're not old, it's not like I've been sitting on them, they're within the last.
Okay, so you have time to say,
Is
we're
this
not going
work
to pay
not
them
done
the 45 days?
that
That's
we
what I
haven't
need to
paid it?
check.
Oh, okay.
His point is are there credits due to us?
And
Because of-
also, just to clarify, the memo went out was 7 days for compliance, not 14.
Yeah, if you could
Okay.
send it to me, just
I
like-
did, it's in your.
In our meeting, we discussed
Thank you.
14, our memo said
Maybe
7.
it's
Okay.
all right.
All right.
Any questions?
For
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Last,
All right.
we've got
Thanks.
utilities. Austin and Bill are here. Do you guys have any questions for utilities?
I don't.
I do not.
But to your point, the other districts I represent with the landscape services, you're right, it's difficult. I mean, from the standpoint of what's out there. They're all having the same issue.
Any questions for utilities?
I don't have any.
Thanks,
Great.
Bill.
Thank you.
Thanks, Austin.
Good job.
Pays to wear the red shirt.
Yeah, there we go.
What's next?
I have to leave some.
Okay. District attorney items.
Briefly, the, oh, you got it up?
We're
Let's just see
getting there.
here real quickly.
If it's next.
Deeds to the district, we received one more deed from Charles Mann's office. I've yet to review it. So we're slowly coming to the finish line on the parcels that are the straggler parcels. Working with Pavis Law Firm, they've been really good so far. We're getting really close to the finish line. Lee Health, I've heard nothing more, so I'll try to wrap it up with them in the next couple of weeks. The borderline lawsuit, we have mediation set for September 6, 2023. We finally got all the parties. What we ended up doing was agreeing to have the court appoint, give us 3 mediators. The court gave us 5 days, the parties 5 days. We didn't decide, the court would decide who the mediator was going to be. And so on the 5th day, Zenner finally came to the table and said, okay, we agree with everybody else. Ford Line, us, and Infomark all agreed to the mediator within a couple of days. So that's set for September 6th, and we'll be getting with the.
It is the 6th now.
Yes, with, in Fort Myers, or it'll be by Zoom. It's gonna be by Zoom. We'll coordinate.
We are doing this by Zoom.
Yes, but we'll coordinate that with you and Chelsea and everybody else ahead of time.
What date?
September 6th.
We just did one last week by Zoom on an HOA issue. Mediations by Zoom. Kissing your sister. It's not good.
Well, yeah, our experience has been pretty good. So hopefully this one will be in the other category to balance with regards to that. Opinion of the title for the utility site DO, I provided a revised one to Stephen. He submitted that. That's for the whole barn here. Outlier damage claims. I had to rework the county lawsuit, the county court lawsuit, so that Jack is working on that to finalize that. As to the Pelican Reserve infrastructure easements, Passerella has been phenomenal to work with. I know as far as preparing the necessary documents. Today I received the edits by the Avila attorney to the grant of easement, which were quite extensive. So I'll.
Oh, they are?
Well, it looks like it. About 2/3 of it's redlined.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So it's more than a few words?
Oh, it's a total overhaul.
It's about 2.5 pages worth of redlining additions.
Oh.
So
But I'm hoping Tony will
Sweet talk.
be good with it.
I will,
Okay.
well, to the extent that it's not going to adversely impact the district. Yes, I will. That's my approach to get, but some of a quick glance, some of them seem like a no brainer. Some were, no, can't do that.
So was it just for billable hours or?
I have no clue.
Okay.
Carol.
All I knew is I saw.
I'm just asking.
Chelsea, was it a fair statement, Chelsea, that there's more red than black on the document?
Yeah.
Put it that
Whoa.
way. It was
Okay.
kind of like going to, like roulette, more red though. The news press ads, we got that done. It was one of those exercises where the news press and their template review and proof review brought it down to everybody pulling their hair out, but we got it into the paper. The big yes.
That was this one?
Yeah, how the news press changed FY 23-24 to FY 22-23, we have no clue how they did that. How they transposed numbers, we have no clue, but with Stephen, Chelsea, Laura, and I, and Georgia, we got it
A
all
handful
done.
of lost hair.
Don't they do a, what do you call it?
A proof?
A proof.
It was
About
interesting.
4 of them.
There was
No, I
way
think there were more than, yeah.
4. It was
Yeah.
probably about 10 or 12. It was ridiculous. This has been the worst one ever.
Yes, I agree. We all agreed we'll have a better map next year.
Yes.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. The, let's see, the school district, SRF construction loan agreement on utilities. The loan agreement that was sent to the district is 20-year amortization, and that would require a validation. So Chelsea, I think Laura have had conversations with SRF about maybe doing a 5-year loan first. And then the finance team, I'll call it, the group they work with, Pedro, Stephen, Chelsea, Laura and I, and Rhonda, looking at the original $99 million validated water and sewer bonds, whether or not those could be utilized as a source of funding, as opposed to, and whether or not the SRF loan could be considered a bond under that validation, or whether or not to go with a 5-year term agreement with DEP and take it out with a.
And not have the bond validation.
And then do another series, like a 4th or 5th supplemental trust indenture under the 89 bond issue, and issue a series of bonds for this work. So that's all in progress right now.
We did change the loan agreement to a 5-year.
5 years.
Yes, and then it was pending
That'll
the
buy us time.
discussions. Yeah, to buy us some time.
There's so just
Go ahead, I'm
expounding
sorry,
on that
Chelsea.
a little bit. For the enterprise fund, we pulled from cash reserves for the 2 roundabouts, and there was not any long-term financing other than the cash reserves. And so those have, of course, over the last 2 years have gone down. And so we have these upcoming projects that we need
to stop.
Okay.
Have a brief recess.
Okay, we'll have a brief recess.
You gotta go.
And the final Jeopardy question is.
I hate to miss an opportunity.
Hey, I don't need pressure.
Oh, that was great.
Oh, that was funny.
this isn't related to the board. Did you send me the proof of the 515?
Oh, the affidavit
Not the proof,
publication?
the affidavit of publishing. I didn't remember seeing that for the.
No, we won't get that until they do both ads.
So they do both, okay.
But
I
essentially
couldn't
one
remember
of
if they
the-
did them separate, if they did them together.
They do one affidavit.
Okay, so I should see that next week.
We have to nudge.
Okay, good.
Tony, when we have that meeting on the 6th, are we going to have it in a central room?
We'll
all
talk
gonna-
about that. That's
We
part
all
of-
going to get here too?
That's part of our coordination.
Yeah.
We would suggest going to our office. We have a Zoom room for that.
Zoom room.
The
We do?
Zoom room.
Oh, yeah, it has sound deadening in it. It's got a big monitor on top. You can do all the squares like Hollywood squares. You see everybody. When we did our first,
So we come down there.
that's what we're suggesting.
Like
We'll
a
talk about that.
situation room.
But we have a conference room table. We have all the audio visual is there. We specifically built that because that was designed during the COVID trials were being held by Zoom.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Chelsea, you were talking about the enterprise fund and.
So anyway, there we have upcoming projects that we need to consider alternative funding sources in this bond validation. That is from 1989 is one of the sources that we're looking at. So we're gonna have bond counsel and Stephen Bloom look through the details of the master trust indenture and make sure we can,
That we can do it.
yes.
Yeah, because they validated 40 years. They validated $99 million worth of bonds. Maximum payments would be 40-year amortization. And again, whether or not that it's still a viable instrument to be utilized. Because there's plenty of money available from that $99
Yes.
million ceiling, not even close to that ceiling. Daniel's Parkway apartment submittals, I had a conversation as a follow-up to some of our staff calls we've had with developer representatives. I spoke with an attorney representing the developer on Monday, reiterated the board's position, staff's position, that the developer needs to connect to the district's irrigation system, that we will not approve it off horizontal wells or any wells. The district's utility rules say no wells are permitted without the district's approval. So and I explained to their attorney, who I've known for a long time, the idea that this project was initially had that stub out, and because the prior developer sort of chopped it up a bit, that's causing the issue. So if they want to, they can make a written submittal to the board to formally make a presentation. And I told them there was a board meeting today. I don't know whether or not they will. The staff is, again, following board's direction, and it's the staff's recommendation to continue that way. In regards to Stony Brook, as I mentioned, I prepared a form of consent, just doing it a little bit at a time, a form of consent for the property owners, record owners, sent that to the county attorney's office. The association will need to, the board will need to adopt a resolution also. I have forms. I researched around the state of Florida, other local governments, counties and cities where this activity occurred to see what format they utilized.
For the ballot.
No, this is for the consent. For the consent
Yes,
and the
for the
resolution
consent.
by the association.
Yeah.
So I created that consent form and I sent it. And one of the issues on the consent form is, what would be the deadline for the consent form to be returned? And how will the county handle any conveyances or deeds that happen between the time Susie and Johnny Smith each sign their consent forms and the time this actually takes place if they sell their land? So that's one of the issues.
Well, I mean, is this something that they do for, you grant a week or 2 weeks?
That's
30,
what,
60, 90 days.
once again, there's a blank,
Well, I
there's a
hope
blank in
not
there.
that long.
Yeah, there's a blank in there. That's why we need to have that conversation with the county attorney's office.
This is something I think you want to do it quickly. You don't want it to be staggered out a
Well,
long
how many
time.
people are part-timers? That's all four-timers?
Oh, no, not.
Once again, it's
Stony
owners, it's record owners. That's the key.
Well, but I mean, are they here?
Brook.
I don't know that.
What are you
Yes.
over there? What you,
Okay.
maybe 20% seasonal?
These-
20% seasonal? Or do you
Higher or
even have
lower?
that many? I think they're a lot less than we are.
I ran a report on all of the property owners and if they owned or if it was another property away and they don't have that many. They have a lot of
I
residents.
just want
I
to make
think
sure
they
they all
do
get a
too.
chance to opine.
Doug's online, he could probably speak to
You
it.
just
too.
Well,
don't
once
want
again,
to,
Once we get to this phase of getting the county to sign off on the form of the consent, then I would suggest that we'd get back with the association to say, here's a
Okay.
form of a resolution, and run that by the county, so we have the packet to give to the community as a whole.
30 days should be.
more than enough, more than enough.
They might have to do a cell job.
What else?
With regards to the FGOA interconnect, working with Chelsea on that, had a good, was an hour-long Zoom call or Teams call on that, and we're waiting for their edits back.
I anticipate the FGUA interconnect, all of the agreements to come in the next 2 months.
Oh, they're getting that close then.
Paperwork wise, we're getting close. It'll take them about a year to construct.
Where's Tetra Tech on their analysis as far as the impact?
Modeling,
Yeah, have they done
they,
it?
they have to do one, they have to go back and do one flow test on a hydrant, and we've received the draft report, and we're gonna be okay.
We're okay.
Yeah, that was a very productive call.
Yeah.
And anything else if the board has any questions?
Any questions,
Weren't you
Tony?
going to be working on a procurement policy or something like that?
Well, board policy procedures, I have that, just need to get with Chelsea on that, all the other
Okay.
matters.
I didn't see it on your list here.
That,
It was a
it's
little
up
further up.
It was
Like-
in-
It's
Oh,
further
was
up.
it?
It's on the other page.
It's further up.
Oh,
One
okay.
other item too is, and keep meaning to follow up
It's
with
okay.
Leslie on a backflow backflow prevention policy.
Utility rules update we're gonna have in the upcoming months, and Leslie is reviewing all of our utility rules and proposing changes and sending it to Tony for his review, and then a backflow.
Yeah, I have one client that has a backflow policy, so, and procedure and testing, because Cuyahoga County requires it also. I'm sorry?
That's across the board right now.
Yeah.
Everybody's required to do it.
Yeah, no, but Cuyahoga County's requiring it of the vendors, and
Oh,
where they supply your water too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything for Tony?
Nope.
Bring it future board business.
so, I did touch base with Lorna, Lorna Kibbe for the strategic action plan. She has, 2 dates in September. I wanted to run them by you. If not, I'll go back to her and look at some dates in October. And my ask is, one of the days was supposed to be on your board meeting, on your second board meeting in September. I would suggest canceling that board meeting and then just doing the strategic workshop, but it's September 21st and 22nd, so I just need to know if you guys' schedules accommodate that.
Mine does.
Yes, mine does.
The 21st is what day of the week?
Thursday.
Thursday. Yeah,
Thursday.
Thursday, Friday.
It'd be a Thursday, Friday.
So that'll be a workshop then?
Yeah.
What's the date again?
September 21st and 22nd.
Thursday, Friday. Is it a 2-day workshop?
Yes.
Ooh,
Not full days each.
I'm there.
Okay. What time?
Time is to be determined, probably morning. It'll be a whole day thing.
Okay.
You know? So 21, 22,
So-
September.
I'll follow up with Flavia since she left, but as of right now, it seems like that's good to go, and then. so that we-
21st, we're already committed to be here, so that shouldn't be a problem at all.
So, are you guys okay with not having your regularly scheduled meeting on the 21st?
I don't care, I'm in the middle of. What time you
It's fine.
expect this to start? In the morning or?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh. Yeah,
We
that's
get
fine.
lunch and
Yeah.
there'll be a,
One day it was lunch and the other day it was breakfast.
yes,
Yeah.
it's like a day and a half.
Day and
Okay.
a half.
Okay.
Yeah, it's also, you can just send me what the nature of it is so we can do the notice to the paper. Thanks.
Right,
The other items.
agenda management,
I didn't have anything.
I'm okay with that.
so, these are the items that we're working on, we anticipate for the August 3rd. I have been going back and forth with Eric Colling at FPL, and he's telling me that they're gonna have the, design plans ready to you for the August 3rd meeting for your consideration. So I know he's been going back and forth, making sure that they have public utility easements, for all of the roadways. I know I had to do some, Tony helped me, we had to look up,
That was entertaining.
some instrument numbers for West Links and Gateway Greens Drive to make sure that they had, rights to be in there. To put
And the
those
first
streetlights.
iteration is Gateway only, right? Not Pelican yet.
He's working on photometric documentation for Pelican. I just confirmed the locations, which is the main drags, Pelican Preserve Boulevard, Cypress Grove, and Tree Line from Pelican up to Tree Line, as the
So he
first,
might have it, or,
to do photometrics.
oh, not for August 3rd?
No.
Okay,
No,
okay,
no.
okay. All right.
I do have a question on the agenda management. We had been doing workshops at the first meeting each month, which means that we would do a workshop for the August 3rd. We could do a budget workshop like we have been doing, but I guess it's up to you. Do you feel that we need the extra hour for the budget discussions, or will we be able to cover what you wanted to discuss during the meeting on the 3rd?
I don't think we have no budget things.
I don't have any big issue.
The regular meeting at the 3rd should be, 3 o'clock start should be.
Okay,
Yeah, you enumerated all the things that
Yeah.
we pretty well,
If they're all
if
covered.
they're all done.
I'll
yeah.
make sure that they're reflected on the.
So is there anything else that, you guys need us to be working on or have thoughts that we can be working on?
Yeah, one that you and I talked about this is, there's a lot of emails that are false going around on the issue of the admin building. It's almost got to the point where it's ridiculous of what's going on. We need to come up with something, whether it's 1 page, 2 page, 3 pages, but something that basically indicates to people why we're doing this, what we're doing, and more importantly, they're sitting here. There's plenty of places in Gateway. Why are you having to build a building? Go rent it from someplace. Well, I did a quick little, really quick cost analysis, assuming a 30-year period of the analysis, what it would cost to upfront 6,000 square foot and what it would cost to pay for 30 years the rent. On a time value of money, I come up with about $5.4 million. I take that same building at $4 million, debt finance it 20 years at 4%. And on 20 years, I pay out $5,880,000. So it's within 10%.
For wash.
It's a wash,
Yeah.
but it's
Well,
not.
not only that, we gain the asset too, right, Ed?
Right, right.
So the people need to understand that's just the financial side. The bigger side is we got to have a place that'll hold basically 40 or 50 cars. Those don't fly. They're not around here. They just don't exist. Finding 6,000 square feet doesn't exist. So they just don't understand all of the issues that are on the table that led us to that decision. And I think we need to tell them because it's getting nasty
So, Ed,
because they're making.
Well, and I agree with that, Chelsea. One quick second. And in addition to that, it's what is the impact to the residents? It's about, by my estimations, I think I worked in like 5 million. It's about $15 a year per resident. So that's what residents want. When they see the total price tag, yes, that can be a little intimidating, but what is the impact to the residents over the duration of the debt financing? It's about $15 a year by my quick math.
We need to present our position.
That's what else to explain.
Basically
So
to do. So
what-
I talked to Chelsea about that.
So
I think
if-
that's a good
if-
idea.
because we've gotten inundated with emails, specifically from Stony Brook residents over the last week, or 2 weeks, really, and you all have seen a lot of those emails too. So what we can do is, Ed, if you'd be willing to work with us, I can have Randy put together all of those Q&As that we've gotten so far, kind of do the same thing we did with Stony Brook FAQ, and then if you would be our proofer.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
And maybe put that as a topic on the next president's meeting
absolutely.
to go through it in great detail.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, because as this thing gets closer to the 100%, we now start talking about bidding.
Yeah.
Oh, the flames are really going to come out.
It's
They
like
just-
anything else, if you've communicated,
Yeah.
that's 90% of your battle.
Yeah,
Okay.
and a lot of the people just don't understand
Correct.
the staff and what we've got. They never come to a meeting. They don't know what it's like. They have no idea what's over there at that building. That building over there, if we owned a whole.
Still
Doesn't
wouldn't
solve the
beat it.
problem. You don't have a place to park.
Well,
Okay.
and Ed too, I think we need to talk about our community philosophy is to build a community of choice. We want to be best in class when it comes to our community as a whole. Part of that is being an employer of choice. And so there's a lot of additional things that I think we could be communicating in that FAQ, because I think it goes along with our philosophy. We want to maintain the visual aesthetics of Gateway. We want it to be a great place to live, great place to work, great place to do business. And that also extends to our district on how we manage and the people that work for us.
Well, the thing is, 13,000 people that we're representing, we don't have a city building or a town hall. This is what we're building. It handles all of our departments in that, and
There's
that's the
not-
part they don't understand.
Of any other cities that rent town hall.
I don't think any.
I don't know
governments
any
rent.
that do that.
Yeah.
Because you're looking, it's not one of those things that you worry about a 10-year or a 20-year deal. It's real long time. So 30, 40-year analysis, and the more it goes out, the more it just tips toward the building. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
We'll work on that.
Okay, okay.
Think how much
Anything
cheaper
else?
it would have been if we did it 3 years.
Sure, sure.
And any other items that you'd like for us to have
Nothing
on?
on agenda management,
on
I'm
agenda
okay with
management?
that.
Just that,
Okay,
that particular report.
we'll work on that.
That it,
Supervisor comments.
supervisor comments?
I have none this week.
Bob, okay, Bob.
I have none.
None, Carol?
Did you ever find out what they're doing at 82 in Colonial? I
I,
came by there again today
Boy,
and I
it looks
thought,
different.
it is gone.
Level.
It is leveled.
What's amazing, you sit over there at the Dairy Queen drive-through, and you can see all the way down to Pelican Preserve.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
oh, wow.
I can't tell where to turn anymore. When I come in the morning, I can tell by the trees. I'm like, wait, there's nothing there.
I had reached out to Lee County
What is
to
it?
find out what it was, and they said I have to contact the city of Fort Myers. I have not had a chance to contact them.
Someone
Is
yet.
that
in the
still
forum
Fort
posted
Myers?
A really nice map that has all the planned things on it. They're little pins. It was in the Gateway community page on
Okay.
Facebook. I'll
You
see if I
can't
can
leave
find
it.
it.
I don't know what it
We got a
is.
hearing.
We got a hearing.
It's a hearing.
We got the water rate hearing.
All right, hearing.
Oh.
What's next?
So
You
I
can't
will,
leave.
Okay.
I will follow up with the city this time.
Yeah.
Because it's not strapped, or it doesn't have an address, and so I couldn't search their
Yeah.
permitting system by that.
Chart was really
Yeah.
cool. It was an interactive
I'll
map.
follow up.
Anything else?
Public
Carol?
hearing,
No.
okay.
Yeah, the only thing I had was the, getting that building cost analysis of owning building versus,
I'll keep working on it.
Ready.
I have a pretty good start
Okay.
on it already.
Doug, any
No,
comment?
I don't have anything. I don't have anything. Thank you.
I'm out of town next Tuesday through Friday. My Bahamas trip that was supposed to go in March had got canceled, so this is us rebooking. I will have internet. I won't be able to call unless I FaceTime you, but I'll be checking emails like I have. But if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. Laura will be here. I anticipate it to be pretty quiet. We have a shorter agenda scheduled for August 3rd. We're trying to get all of our items in. I'll be here Monday. I've got some meetings scheduled Monday, but just as a FYI.
Okey-doke, okey-doke.
Is the public hearing
Anything else,
scheduled for,
public?
for 5
5
o'clock?
o'clock, isn't it?
Is it 5 or 5:30?
I think it's 6.
It's what?
6. I don't think it was 6.
Double check.
Did,
Yeah.
wait a minute,
Six,
did
you
we,
can have all
did
the
we,
time, get
did we
tomorrow.
say that?
The budget meeting was scheduled for 6. This one was either 5 or 5:30.
We're talking about public hearing
For the
for,
rates.
Yeah.
oh, the
utility
rate, oh, that's
5:30.
different. I thought we were talking about the budget hearing.
No, the budget is 6. Yeah,
Okay.
17.
We're talking about the rates, utility rates,
The
fees and
rate,
charges.
rate deal's 5:30.
5:30.
5:30.
Yeah. So we have a
Recess?
brief recess.
Yes.
Okey-doke.
I
Do we
didn't bring
need a
some-
motion to recess, or we
Yes.
just
Okay,
do
well,
recess?
You're chair. Available to call back in then?
Doug, you'll be available at 5:25. I bumped the mute button, sorry.
Yeah. At 5:30,
5:25.
5:25. Yes. I'll dial back in.
All right, I'm gonna mute us.
Okey-doke.
5:30.
5:30. We'll call the meeting of the Gateway Services District July 20th meeting back to order. And we'll have the public hearing on the considering an adoption of an amendment to Schedule A of Chapter 1 Rules of the District.
Yeah, and
Tony?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, what?
Is your mic on and your mic down?
Yeah, what is the agenda item again on that? Agenda
It
item
is
16A, let me
16A.
find that.
16
Yes, Mr. Chairman, for the purpose of this hearing is for the board to consider adopting an amended rate schedule, rates, fees, and charges, amending Schedule A to the rules of the utility rule of the district to, number one, adjust rates based upon the increased rates passed on by Lee County. Second of all, to create a rate, fees, and charges schedule for bulk potable water or wholesale water charges, wholesale potable bulk water service based upon the FGUA agreement. The notice of the hearing was published in a timely fashion in the Fort Myers News Press, and is evidenced by a copy that's in the meeting book, as well as the notice of the public hearing was also included in a utility billing using the utility billing process and the utility bills that went out July 15th, if I'm not mistaken. Is that
Yes.
correct, Leslie?
By email and paper.
By email and paper, therefore complying with the statutory requirements for notice. And if the chair could open the public hearing, and I think the manager indicated that she has some comments.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and open the public hearing. And first question.
Give me 1 second. Okay. So there was a comment that was, Laura read in the prior public comment section, and I just want to reread that because the subject line did say water rate increase. So this was from a Karen
Ferraccio.
Thank you. The county commissioners approved the building of 2 new sections of multifamily housing in Gateway. Since each unit is considered 1.5 cars, therefore we will have thousands in extra vehicle traffic daily and thousands of extra people using water. Utility increases can sometimes be justified. However, we are being penalized for their reckless development decision making. And then I have a second one, which came in about an hour, about 2 hours ago. This is from a Stephen Anderson. Gateway Services sent out an email notice on 7/4/23 that informed citizens about the upcoming water rate increase. There were 2 options listed in the flyer that was attached. Since I've received a water bill this month, I presume that option 1 to bill at the old rate through 7/20 and then bill at the new rate is the plan of record. However, when I received my water bill this month, it showed 0 water and sewer usage for the prior 2 months, even though we were living in our house and using water that whole period. The result of this is that when you actually read my meter next month, you will then bill me for the entire period at the higher rate. This disingenuous step is not only deceptive and borderline fraudulent, but is diametrically opposed what Gateway Services stated were their intentions. If you are not going to read everyone's meters for the last period at the old rate, then you shall at least prorate the next bill by the days at the old rate and the days at the new rate for this period.
I want to address Mr. Anderson's email. We did not call him, but I did look at his account. He was billed for 0 usage because his prior bill was overestimated. So his statement regarding.
So he prepaid.
Right.
In essence, prepaid.
Yeah.
So I don't have any other comments. There are no comments in the Teams meeting.
Well, I think he had a good point. I mean, if I was, hadn't been billed for 2 months.
Feel like I got taken.
I'd feel that way too.
Right.
So if you, when you explain that to him, I think he'll feel much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for the record, the ad in the news press was on July 8th, 2023.
Right. We sent out a preliminary notice to give residents more time to digest the information on the 4th. Two things to go over regarding the rates is one in front of you is the format for the 2 billing. It highlights and gives an example of what 1 bill statement would be. It would cover the dates of the 7/6 through the 7/9 prior to the effective date.
Yep.
And then the second bill would be
That's
7/19
1
through 9/5.
1 of 2.
1 of 1. And then 2 of 2 would cover the bill at the new rate, effective 7/20 to the end of that. And the other option, if we decided not to do this, was to hold off and have the bill reflected for November.
The typical residential user, what impact did the county deal have? What happened to their bill? If they were paying $100 for a 2-month period, what under this new one will it be?
8%, so they'd go up
8%.
8%, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so there
So
isn't,
Instead of $100, they'd pay $108.
so
Okay.
when I'm looking at page 1 of 2, and it had a base charge of $698, and I look at 2 of 2, the base charge is almost $26.
Right. The base charges don't change.
So that was not impacted by this.
No.
Okay.
It's just,
I didn't know why there was such a big difference month to month.
yeah, it's just because it's prorated based on the number of days. So the
Okay.
first bill would have 12 days, the second bill would have,
Very happy with Carol's question and answer. Okay.
Okay, do you want a motion from us to do the 2 bills or the November one?
Well, what I would suggest is first close the public hearing on the rates and then adopt the resolution adopting the revised rates, then give direction to the staff. Secondly.
So a motion
but
to
I
close.
did have to,
Hold on, for the record, Doug Banks is online.
Okay.
Okay, so
Well, you want, the prior motion for Doug to participate remotely still stands.
still
Yeah.
stands. Okay.
I do also have to disclose the difference on the public hearing on the rates. Lee County's rates change in July, ours change in January.
A separate from this that was already pre-approved through a public hearing based on the 5-year rate study that was done.
Retroactive?
No,
we
going
cannot
forward
adopt that
every
Going
year.
forward, okay.
Their rates change in July.
Oh, okay, then you're saying going to
And
January.
ours will change and reflect that rate in January.
Got you.
So we'll have 6 months
Ours reflected
of,
as the revised rates are effective if the board adopts it today. And then a further increase occurs on January 1st of '24,
first.
based upon the action previously taken by the board.
Yes.
Okay.
And coupled with today's actions.
So is our,
The 8% is included.
so have we done everything that we need to do in the public hearing session? That
Can
we
we
can
close that now, or-
close the public
Yes, sir.
hearing?
Everything's,
So a motion to close
I
the
move
public,
to close the public
I'll
hearing.
second it.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Doug.
The requested action would be for the board to adopt resolution number 2023-28.
We
So
need a motion to approve resolution 2023-28. Is that correct?
Yes.
So moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this one? All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
go forward with processing 2 bills, correct, for the July.
I think it'd be good to have a
September.
motion for the record as to direction of.
I so move.
So now that's to do which one now?
To process 2
2
bills.
2 bills.
Okay. Do we have a motion to process 2 bills? Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 4-0.
Thank you.
I move we adjourn.
Second?
Are we done?
Yes.
Motion